Hello and welcome back to the Biochemistry for Health Sciences channel. In previous videos, we discussed enzyme kinetics as well as the applications of enzyme kinetics. Today we'll continue with applications and we'll talk about enzymes and alcoholism. We previously discussed how to obtain three important enzyme kinetic values, Vmax, Kcat, as well as Km. So let's try to answer this question using enzyme kinetics. Why does my face become red after I drink a couple of beers? Number two, will I become an alcoholic? So to answer this question, let's look at the metabolism of ethanol. There are several ways we can metabolize ethanol. The most important is the one shown here that happens in our liver. So the ethanol that is absorbed into the bloodstream enters the liver, and in the liver there is an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase or ADH. With the help of NAD, it will oxidize the ethanol into acetaldehyde. In the next step, the enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase or ALDH will further oxidize acetaldehyde with the help of NAD coenzyme into the final product acetate. There are 7 alcohol dehydrogenase genes that are present on chromosome 4. So these are the ones that make ADH1A, then the B type, then the C type, and then the 4, 5, and the 6 and the 7 type. However, there are many different variations in alcohol dehydrogenase. So different populations or different people may have different types of alcohol dehydrogenase, and some examples are shown here. The ADH1A, the B1, B2, B3, the C1, the C2 form, then you have the 4, 5, 6, and the 7 form. And the enzyme kinetics of these enzymes have been studied, and you can see the Km varies quite a lot between the different forms, as well as the Kcat. If we divide by Kcat by the Km, we can find the efficiency of the enzyme, and that too varies quite a bit between one type of alcohol dehydrogenase and another type of alcohol dehydrogenase. And the same applies to the second enzyme involved in the metabolism of ethanol, and that is acetaldehyde dehydrogenase, which converts acetaldehyde into acetate. 2 major forms have been recognized so far. ALDH1A, which is mostly in the cytoplasm, has a high Km of 30 micromolar, while the mitochondrial form, ALDH2, has a higher affinity for acetaldehyde, and that is a Km of only 1 micromolar, about 1 micromolar. So if this first reaction happens very fast, and the second reaction catalyzed by ALDH, if that happens very slow, then what we are going to see is an accumulation of this chemical acetaldehyde in the liver, and eventually this chemical will escape out of the liver into the bloodstream, and of course from the bloodstream it will go to every part of the body. So what happens if acetaldehyde were to accumulate in our body? Now studies have shown that acetaldehyde has direct effects on the brain. This chemical can impair memory, it can affect movements, and it has sedative effects. So these are direct effects on the brain. The second type of effects we see with acetaldehyde are the peripheral effects, what we call alcohol sensitivity. Acetaldehyde is known to stimulate the release of histamine as well as bradykinin, and these chemicals can cause vasodilation, increase your blood vessels, especially under the skin, and that additional blood that is flowing in these enlarged blood vessels can then lead to facial flushing. So basically the face becomes the kind of reddish in color. Acetaldehyde is also known to stimulate the release of the catecholamines epinephrine as well as norepinephrine from the sympathetic neurons as well as from the adrenal glands. And these two hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine, are thought to be responsible for the cardiovascular symptoms that are associated with acetaldehyde accumulation, and that is tachycardia, making your heart beat much faster, as well as high blood pressure. If the levels of acetaldehyde increases to very high, then it can actually have a direct effect on muscles, and that can lead to an opposite effect of what we see here, tachycardia and hypertension. Now we can actually have bradycardia or low heart rate as well as low blood pressure or hypotension. There is a drug called disulfiram or antabuse, and this drug is actually a treatment for chronic alcoholism, and basically what this drug does, it causes acetaldehyde accumulation. So this drug irreversibly binds and inactivates or inhibits the enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase, and that leads to an accumulation of acetaldehyde. So if a chronic alcoholic was on this treatment, he or she will have acetaldehyde that will accumulate in the body, and this acetaldehyde will cause these unpleasant peripheral effects or alcohol sensitivity, including nausea, vasodilation, high blood pressure, tachycardia, and so on. So hopefully these unpleasant side effects will discourage the alcoholic from further drinking. Now it should be remembered that aldehydes, for example here acetaldehyde, aldehydes are highly reactive molecules. So those chemicals that contain this aldehyde functional group, they are highly reactive chemicals. So these aldehydes can very readily react with all kinds of amines that are present in our body, and this reaction can happen very well even in water, the solvent that we find in our body. In fact, this is one of the major problems we see in diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes, where the glucose, where a little bit of glucose that exists as the aldehyde form, can react with amines, whether it's a small molecule amines or amines present in proteins, and this reaction can then lead to the formation of what we call advanced glycation end products. And these advanced glycation end products are known to be very toxic and are known to be responsible for many of the symptoms that we see in uncontrolled diabetes. As we saw in video 2.73 under carbohydrates, most of your glucose, because glucose has 6 carbons, so most of your glucose is not present in the aldehyde form. Most of it is present in the hemiacetal, the cyclic form, and in the cyclic form we do not have the aldehyde group. So there is no aldehyde here, but we do have the aldehyde in the non-cyclic form. And it's this form that reacts with proteins and other amines. It eventually causes the side effects that we see or the symptoms that are associated with diabetes. Now, acetaldehyde, on the other hand, acetaldehyde has only one other carbon besides the aldehyde group. So acetaldehyde cannot become cyclic. Therefore, this is much more reactive. The small aldehydes, such as acetaldehyde, are much more reactive than glucose and can readily react with all kinds of amines, and that could be amines that are present in proteins or small amine molecules such as the neurotransmitters. We have several neurotransmitters that are amines. So for example, serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is an amine that can react with acetaldehyde. GABA is a neurotransmitter that has an amine that can react with acetaldehyde. Dopamine has an amine that can react with acetaldehyde. And norepinephrine has an amine that can also react with acetaldehyde. So clearly acetaldehyde can react with many different types of biomolecules, including neurotransmitters and proteins, when it accumulates in our body. So examples of some of these products that we see formed when acetaldehyde reacts with these amines are given here. Reaction of dopamine with acetaldehyde leads to condensation products, for example, salsolinol. Reaction of serotonin with acetaldehyde will give us a product called MTBC, and so on. Of course, proteins reaction with acetaldehyde will give you acetaldehyde protein adducts. So the symptoms that we see that are associated with alcohol consumption may be due to several effects. One could be the effect of ethanol itself. The ethanol itself will have direct effects on the body. The other is the effect of acetaldehyde, one of the intermediates of ethanol metabolism. Acetaldehyde could also have direct effects, or the effects could be mediated via condensation products with small amines, as well as acetaldehyde protein adducts. So all of these chemicals here could be responsible for the symptoms that are associated with alcohol consumption. So in conclusion, the answer to the question, why does my face become red after I drink a couple of beers? The answer is acetaldehyde accumulation. So those who have alcohol dehydrogenase enzymes that are very effective, highly efficient, for example, if you had this one here, ADH1B2, that has a very high Kcat Km value. That means these are very efficient enzymes. So if you had that enzyme, you would metabolize ethanol to acetaldehyde very fast. In addition, if you had an enzyme ALDH2 variation where it is very ineffective, then this step is going to be very slow. So very fast, first step, very slow, second step. That is going to lead to acetaldehyde accumulation in your body when you have a drink or two, and that is going to cause your facial flushing. Okay, so first step very fast, second step very slow. Why? Because of the types of these two enzymes that you have, alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase. What about the second question? Will I become an alcoholic? The answer to the second question is also based on the type of these two enzymes that you have. So if you had, once again, the highly efficient ADH1B2, then you are going to convert ethanol into acetaldehyde very fast. And if you had a weaker form of the second enzyme, the ALDH2, the aldehyde dehydrogenase, then this reaction is going to be slow, and that's going to lead once again to acetaldehyde accumulation. And this acetaldehyde accumulation is going to cause the unpleasant effects that we discuss under alcohol sensitivity. Okay, so people with these type of enzymes tend to have acetaldehyde accumulation, and this is going to discourage drinking, just like the drug disulfiram is going to discourage drinking, and therefore having these strong ADH1B2 enzymes and weaker variations of the ALDH2 enzymes are going to be protective against alcoholism. So more efficient alcohol dehydrogenases and weaker aldehyde dehydrogenases will cause acetaldehyde accumulation and may be protective against alcoholism. We will have more videos in future on the applications of enzyme kinetics. So until the next video, goodbye for now and have a wonderful day.